PMDD shaped my life for 17 years before I could name it. I spent those years searching for answers, questioning my sanity, and desperately seeking treatments that actually worked. My painful journey had an unexpected twist. Helping others heal from PMDD became my life's purpose. Hi, I'm Jess, a board-certified nutritional therapist, coach, the founder of Her Mood Mentor, and your host. This is PMDD Pep Talk, a weekly reminder that your suffering is real, your experience is valid, and your future is brighter than your symptoms suggest. Each week, we're going to explore the truths about PMDD that nobody talks about. The kind of truths that shift something deep inside you and make you think, maybe there's more possible than I imagined. Whether you're in the depths of luteal darkness or riding the clarity of your follicular phase, you're exactly where you need to be. Because here's what I know for sure. Healing PMDD isn't just about managing symptoms, it's about transforming your life. This challenge, as brutal as it can be, is an invitation to know yourself more deeply and live a more joyful, purpose-filled life. PMDD might feel like your whole story, but it's just a chapter, and you get to write what comes next. Welcome to PMDD Pep Talk. Quick pep talk pause. Remember that everything we talk about here is meant to educate and inspire. Always team up with your healthcare provider for personal medical advice. All right, now let's get into it. Hello, this is Jess with Her Mood Mentor, and today I am meeting with one of our PMDD rehab students and one-to-one clients, Jen. Hi, Jen.
Hi.
We're so happy to have you here. Really excited to hear your story. So thanks for being willing to have this conversation and share with us.
Thanks for asking me.
So let's just get into it. I'm curious to hear what was happening with your symptoms, kind of when they started, what they were like, what symptoms were there. I know that's a lot of questions, but you came to us struggling with some hormonal mood symptoms. Tell us a little bit about what that was looking like before we got started.
Right. So obviously, I've now recognized I've had this ever since I got my period back in the seventh grade. But after I had my two children, my son was born in 2022. I started to notice like really severe, more of the like some physical symptoms, but mostly the anxiety, the rage, anger, irritability kind of kicking up, and it was more than postpartum. It was lasting. I think it was 3 years since he was born that I reached out to you. So just kind of getting worse and worse. And obviously, some of the physical symptoms were, some bad acne, breast tenderness, headaches monthly, which I didn't know I had until I started tracking. But kind of, joint pain and back pain my back pain was pretty severe. And that's kind of where it all sparked, my investigation of what I was really experiencing monthly, and then all the other symptoms kind of came to the surface and I realized, oh, this is actually like pretty cyclical, and then I just started from there. I was already given SSRIs, and I had a IUD put in after my son, but so the medical kind of the medical world um, gave me those two options to help reduce some things. But I think more so I noticed that, hey, my symptoms are not just, they're simmering down for two weeks, but then 2 weeks they're just, amping up. And so then I just did a 5 a.m. deep dive and came across came across a lot of things out there on the internet, but I joined your Instagram, and then from there it spiraled into everything. Jess, it was great. I loved all of the stuff that you have out there. Um, yeah, so I think from there I realized that these symptoms are taking over my life. And when I got a diagnosis for PMDD from one of my therapists, she recommended that I look into it, talk to my doctor, sort of thing. I actually saw a naturopath in my whole, desperation of finding answers, and she said you clearly have PMDD, and then from there, I tried all of the things that they gave me, and nothing was working. And then, I came across you had an option to have it like a intro session. And truthfully, I don't remember signing up for it. I don't remember how that came about, but I thought the universe is sending me something, and then from there we met, and I never looked back.
Well, thanks for sharing that, Jen. Yeah, so these
Yeah,
symptoms, like, they've been going on for so long, and then it's very
yeah,
common after we have children that the symptoms can ramp up. And you were
yeah,
very active. You weren't just like, this is what my life is like now. You were trying to figure it out. You were receiving diagnoses, trying different medications, the IUD, counseling, all the things. I'm curious, a lot of those symptoms were physical, but many of them were psychological as well. So many women are suffering with these symptoms. I'm curious if you could kind of paint the picture of like, how is this impacting your quality of life? Obviously, these symptoms are uncomfortable. We don't want to have rage and anxiety and body pain and all of that. But where was that crossover of, you at one point you said like, this is kind of like affecting my entire life. What can you tell us a little bit more about what that looked like?
yeah. So I had been experiencing a lot of anxiety and just like the exhaustion, but then the brain fog was something that I've talked to other people about, and they're like, oh, it's just when you have kids, that's what happens. And but it was affecting my work. And I always forget to mention this, but a huge life change. But I decided that, I couldn't work anymore. I needed to step away from my job, and life was taking over with like just the ups and the downs and the anxiety and the stress of that. So I was like, I need to figure out what's going on with myself. And I couldn't do my job efficiently. And that was like a huge thing for me because my career was like everything. I worked so hard to get where I was. And then when I couldn't make I didn't want to put everybody else out, and I needed to take a step back from that. And also then from there, just that like monthly argument with my husband of like, I'm just suffering, but didn't know what was going on. And it just turned into like a monthly conversation of like, this isn't working. I need, more support, but didn't know where it was coming from. And then also just like, I would be fine for 2 weeks with my kids. We'd be like going here, going there, doing the fun things. Bedtime was great. And then the rage and the anxiety and like the irritability of just trying to manage being a mom and two little children would take over. And I didn't like that part of myself. And I really wanted to get ahead of these things because um, like they're the three things that are important in my life are, family, and at that time my job was, and definitely my being the best mom and partner I can be is like top of my list, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and these symptoms, they can be so insidious, right? It's like maybe if it was 1 or 2 days, it wouldn't have such an effect. But when we get to that 10th, 11th, 12th day,
Yeah,
we're just cut down, and it just starts to uh, spill over into every aspect of our lives where we start wondering, like, what are we capable of? A lot of questions start coming up, a lot of fears come up, a lot of overwhelm. We start telling ourselves stories about who we are because of the symptoms, and it's really not, the symptoms are separate from who we are. But when you're experiencing them for half of the month, that line starts to get blurred of who actually am I
right.
versus what are the symptoms. So I'm curious, you had tried a lot previously working with a naturopath, different practitioners, what led you into making the choice to take this approach, this specific approach that we take here for the hormonal mood symptoms?
Well, I think the biggest thing for me was I tried all the supplements. I did the energy healing work. I did the therapy. I did, all of these things to try to, diminish these symptoms or to get ahead of them. But there was never a focus on the PMDD stuff, like the day to day of like the how it feels to be in somebody's life that has PMDD. And I think that was the huge connection for me, was that you've experienced this in your life. And also the ADHD thing, like I'm a true ADHDer and forgot that I had it for so long that yeah, I joke that like that just proves that I have it because I forgot that I was diagnosed with it in university. But um, I just think that the education part of your program and the fact that when you speak in either your podcast or um, on your Instagram, it's just like these are real scenarios that you have gone through, and the connection that I I was drawn to with you was like the biggest factor, I would say.
Yeah, it's very different. I mean, no, none of us can really understand something we haven't lived through, and that doesn't mean we
Right.
can't help others navigate it, but there is a gap in the world of those of us experiencing PMDD where very few practitioners who are offering support actually lived through it. So the resources that they're providing, the way they're talking about it, right, there's a disconnect between what it
Right.
really is and how we can really support it versus here are just the general things that you do for it, not so much of the personalization and the lived experience. Everything that we create is out of the lived experience, which now
Yeah.
is such a beautiful thing, is tough to live through myself, but it's a different, it's very different to work through a program where the resources were designed by someone who had experienced it so they know what we need or closer to what we need than just here's the medications that are given, here's the general supplements that are given.
Right.
That's pretty much end of story. We go a lot deeper and a lot differently in the program. So I'm curious, like coming into this, you had tried a lot already. This had been going on for so long. You were coming to really ahead with the symptoms. What were some fears that you had coming into the program?
Well, I think some of them were just like, obviously the big one would be, is this really going to work? Like, are these women that share their stories, like maybe they're different, maybe they have better habits, maybe they are, like there's always like that disappointment. I think monthly when I'm going to start a new habit and then it doesn't work out. Um, so there was that fear of like, can I actually, do this? I was afraid of the cost, but that's just because I had quit my career and I didn't have that much money at the time. But once I realized that the program, well, for me, I didn't think it was that costly, like for the changes that it has gone for my life. And so I just kind of had those initial fears of like, can I do this basically? Um, and what are they going to tell me that I'm not doing? Like I've done, how many things have I've done, right? Um, but I was more I think when my personality is just like, if you get knocked down, like try harder. Like that's kind of, you know, exhaust all options before giving up. And yeah, I think those fears with the initial interview, just that before I signed up for the program, I think it was just instant, like a connection I felt. And I think that was, helpful in providing me some like comfort when I signed up that, I can do this. And I think, yeah, it just felt like very calm. And I think that's your presence. Like it wasn't like stressful. It wasn't all of these things you have to do. It was kind of like you go with the client and lead from what they're capable of at that time.
Yeah, that personalization is really key because clients are coming to us in all different stages of life, but really every client that comes to us, I always talk with my team, like we're like scooping these women off the ground. Like they are face
Mm-hmm.
planted and that's where we're starting with them. And so we have to work with where they are. They do not need more disappointment, more frustration, more feeling like they're failing. We do not want to
Mm-hmm.
create an environment that fosters
Yeah.
any more of those feelings. So
Yeah.
our whole program and the strategies and the systems are continually honed now over 8 years. We're going through a whole new revision of like, how do we simplify this? How do we make this even less overwhelming, even easier? And so that is really important because if you go to a woman experiencing PMDD and hand her a 10-step action list and demand that she follows through with a level of consistency that's just not attainable, we're starting out already, like again, just back to square one. So that's so great
Yeah.
to hear. People have different fears coming in. It's always different for everyone, but thanks for sharing those. And then I kind of want to transition into, okay, so those fears coming in, and then we went through the program. You worked through our educational arm of the curriculum arm of our program. We moved through the coaching and nutritional therapy side of things. What changed? What was different for you after everything else that you tried moving through this program? Tell us a little about that. Now, there's lots of angles of that we'll get into, but I just first want to hear like what was different.
I think it was early on in the program, but I think one of the game changers for me was that like I came to one of our sessions and it must have been in luteal phase. I was like completely distraught, but I was just like, I'm so tired and I want to rest, but like I won't allow myself to rest. And then you just changed, like you pivoted for all those friends, fans out there. You pivoted and you were like, hey, well, put to the side what we were going to talk about, but you just like we did some inner child work, and some people might be afraid of that, but like I'm like, bring that on. I want to resolve these old wounds so that I can, push forward in my healing journey. And like I think that was really powerful because if I'm going to be honest, I had a nap this morning because I knew I was so tired and I just needed a little bit of, energy to do this because I was looking forward to it. But and I just able to give myself permission to rest because at the beginning it was like, oh, I felt like I wanted to nap every day. But then when I look back at it, it was like 1 or 2 days out of the month that I needed like just a little bit to get me through the day. And I'm someone who would think, oh my God, if I nap now, I'm going to nap every day. I'm not going to get anything done for the rest of my life. And it's just like that's the way of my thinking process, right? So I think doing that work helped me to come to terms with like, no, whatever I thought about rest before was just old thinking patterns, and I know that I'm the type of person that's not going to sleep all day every day for the rest of my life. So when I do need to nap, I do now. I do give myself a little pushback, but I think that session helped me to come to terms with like there's more to this than drinking water or eating protein. There's a lot of old patterns of thinking that, a lot of other women experience that have this, and we're not alone in that, but there's ways that you can help us through that. And I think that was really important because I haven't got that in any other program that I've, joined, and I've joined a lot of programs in my life.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's so beautiful hearing the kind of like the rewiring, the mindset work, the again, meeting you where you are. I think people do come into the program and they're like, I don't know, I'm not exactly sure what they think, but I suspect there's a lot of like, I'm going to have a checklist and I'm going to take these supplements and I'm going to drink the water and eat the protein, right? More of those just action-based, solution-focused activities. But the first thing we do in the program is not that. We do a
No,
lot of deep work and we start out
it was
initially.
hard. Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember like when you're like, okay, what are your values? And I was like, I don't even know what these values are. Like I never really um, thought about it before, or if I did, because I've gone to all of these like, inspiring programs out there, but I might have just like didn't do it or something. I don't know. Like it just felt like that was the most difficult for me is like, what is your purpose and what are your values? And I think maybe they have changed since I've had children. And so I've never thought about it. And when you're constantly in that battle of like just trying to survive every month, you're not taking the time to think about what you want out of life. But that was probably the hardest activity or exercise I've done where I just couldn't come up with the answers. But then like we worked through it and now when people ask me what do you value in life, I can like name them all, off at the top of my head. And um so I think it was like, oh, I remember we were talking about it and I said I value these things for other people. But like I didn't know how to connect it to myself or say like how am I living through these values? Because I never associated the values with who I was, and I had no idea how to live out the values that I thought were important. And I think that once I started to realize there's a connection between that disconnect, then I think that really helped me to, you know, put more into the program and get more out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, we start with the values work because so much of the suffering that comes with PMDD is because when we're escalated, we're acting out behaviors that go against our core values, but we're not even seeing that. We don't see where's all this guilt and shame coming from? How is this perpetuating this damage control cycle where I'm just building up and then cutting down my life every 2 weeks? And so there's a lot of deep work in the program where we're working and supporting you through these systems to help rewire just the negativity bias that comes along with it and ultimately come back to yourself because there's a distrust that starts to happen, right? You don't trust your body. It feels like you're being attacked. You don't trust yourself. It just starts to escalate. It gets real messy. And so we have to wade through all of that and bring you back to yourself because how are you going to learn to reduce and manage these symptoms and listen to those symptoms and interpret those symptoms and meet those symptoms in order to change the symptoms, right? If you hate yourself, you hate your body, you don't trust yourself, you don't trust your body, you don't even know how to get there, right? We have to do that deep work. So it's an unexpected but key part. And again, I think that comes back to like, I designed this program because I lived this, right? Your doctor isn't going to guide you through those types of exercises because they don't really know what's at stake and where PMDD just erodes your sense of self and your confidence. So a lot is playing out there, but tell us a little bit about what changed symptom wise, like symptom duration wise, symptom severity wise, any shifts in with the symptoms along with the deep work that we were doing.
Yeah, so I noticed, and again, I think I'm a I'm a very true believer in the symptom mapping because I would forget that I had those symptoms from month to month. So I do tell people like track your symptoms because you'll notice things are happening um, and you didn't even realize they were related to maybe these hormonal shifts. But I definitely had less anxiety. And I only noticed that too because I was tracking how many times I had to take these calm chewables that I have. And then one month I realized like I can't even remember. I forgot I had these, right? So like I wasn't taking them anymore. And um, definitely the irritability factor like lessened and kind of the crying. I kind of joke that like the amount of crying I did could fill any, you know, shortage of water in this world because it's a lot of tears. Um, and now, I mean, I'll get tearful like the Olympics are right now. So like when somebody wins, like I instantly cry, but um, it's not like crying, sobbing myself to sleep, feeling so lonely in my body and my mind, right? So obviously my acne is getting better and less back pain, which was huge for me because I was really suffering with back pain after my children. And then noticing like headaches. I didn't know I had headaches monthly until I tracked them. But then I was like, I haven't had a headache and for so long. But then I'd look back and it was like exactly a month ago. So um, I've noticed that less headaches definitely um, since I started the program. And but the biggest thing for me is the irritability and anxiety piece of it. And my husband and I are working on a lot of things, and um, I have, I'm not coming to him monthly with like this list of things that, that's making me upset. So I think that's a huge thing too, because it's helpful for our family.
Yeah. Yeah. So lots of shifts in the symptoms. One you didn't mention that we'll read when we read the quotes, but energy levels was a big
Oh, yes.
part.
Yeah, huge. So um, I always like explain it like this. I don't know if people understand what I'm talking about, but I just have more space to do things. And I always just like go from my over my head to like my shoulders because I feel like there's more space in my head. Um, just to get like these menial tasks done that like I could not, stay on top of. And um, I just can get more done in a day. And that comes from the energy that I have. There was a big shift, and I didn't notice it at first, but over, I have a little bit more energy to do things. But then at the end of the program, I really realized, yeah, like I have more time to do things, like more space in the day, and there's more time to rest because I have more time to do all the other things that I need to get done in a day. So that was huge for me. I think the space, like, which also equates to energy, right?
I mean, when we look at the days that you came into the program with, do you remember how many days you were experiencing moderate to severe symptoms when you entered the program?
Like 10 to 12,
10 to 12.
12, yeah,
Yeah. And then in the
10 to 12
last
or more.
Yeah, and then in the last month, and this isn't just like I feel like I have this many, so like we
Yeah,
collected the data, we have our daily
yeah.
record of severity of problems, that symptom mapper that you were collecting data on, and we were targeting your symptom patterns and learning about throughout the program. Your last symptom mapper, how many moderate to severe days do you remember were on that one?
About 4.
Or,
And I want to say too, like 4, but they weren't, they're, they weren't like the full day.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like some of these symptoms, they would be the full day. I would feel exhausted or irritable or what have you. But then I started to realize after, I'm like, yes, there was moments of these days, but like they weren't the full entire day, which was huge. Like I'm not someone who's gonna lie on my feet, my tests, but so yeah, I do experience like some severe irritability still, but it's not the same because it's not like a continuous daily occurrence. It's like, yeah, that day I was more irritable than I have been because, and now I can link it to the reasons, but and then learn how to lessen it throughout the day is huge too. I think recognize, yes, I am irritable. This is okay, and here's what I need to either dissipate it or to get over it or to move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so like that space, you literally reclaimed like 6 to 8 days from moderate
yeah.
to severe symptoms. So literally like hours and days and over a week of your time back that you're not just getting, you know, knocked down, knocked down, knocked down, knocked down, having to recover, right? There is more time, more space for resting, for doing the things you want to do, literally through the symptom mapping data. And then in the reduction of symptoms, we do a lot of data collection because we want to see how things are working, what's working. So, just like you said, now when I'm irritable, we guide you through a process of being able to determine what is causing the irritability, then you know what to do about it. So there's less like helplessness, hopelessness. There's a lot more context and understanding of what's driving those symptoms. But when you came into the program, you started out with an overall symptom burden in our symptom assessment that we run in the introductory session, with a 549 point symptom burden. And when you graduated out of the program, you had brought that down to 288 points for a total symptom burden reduction of 261 points. So, yes, you got the days back, but also in our graph, the symptom assessment, you brought the severity of dysregulation in that symptom burden chart down by 266 points. So we could see that. We could see the reduction in your map. We could see the reduction in your symptom assessment. Just so exciting. Of course, you knew you felt better, but to be able to see the data on the page is a little bit different. I have some quotes. Do you want to read through some quotes from your sessions?
Sure.
Okay.
For sure.
These are sweet reminder. Let's see. Lots of quotes for you. I'm not going to read them all, but in session 2, so this is only 2 weeks into the program, you said, I've noticed a huge difference in my energy levels.
Yeah.
Already, which was really exciting. And then when we get to session 4, you said only a moment of crying instead of days.
Yes.
You also said in session 5, a lot less days of irritability in your symptom mapper.
Yes.
And you said, I have more energy to work out.
Yes.
So you're recouping that energy. You're also then utilizing that energy differently. That was session 4. In session 5, you said, I'm more positive.
Yeah.
You also said less anxiety and overwhelm. Ooh, and this one, I don't have any severe days on my map.
Yeah.
In session 5, no recorded severe days. In session 6, you said the fatigue is no longer severe. You said no depression or emotional sensitivity.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, no physical premenstrual symptoms, which was a lot of the symptoms you were experiencing were physical.
Yes.
And then my acne is a lot better.
Yes.
And then in our last session in session 7, you said, I don't have breast tenderness for 2 weeks of every month anymore.
Yes.
So the body speaking back, a lot of these quotes were about the body responding to the strategies and protocols that we were putting into place. What's it like to just recap on the whole experience and see, in a 4-month period of time, you really turned this around, not only symptom-wise, but also just how you're feeling about the symptoms yourself?
Yeah, I think it's great to have the numbers before and after, because you do forget what it was like. Just because I'm someone that just lives in the now, right? I only know what's in front of me, but yeah, you forget to notice that there's great things that have happened over the 4 months, like the little wins that you get. And it's hard to, I think it was also hard for me to celebrate because I was still kind of like, okay, I did this, but now I have to sustain it. And there's just that hesitation, but I mean, I have all of the tools to do it. You can see it in the numbers and you can see it when you talk to me, but I think that the toolkit that I built with you throughout the program is it more than enough, to help in the future when the symptoms do come back, or maybe they don't, and they're less severe for whatever amount of time. And if they creep up, then I have all of the education and the experience to know that I can, they can, I can get through them or minimize them in the future. Like this weekend was, I was like, okay, I'm irritable, like I'm in luteal, like I had a jam-packed weekend, but I just knew that this is why I'm irritable and take some breath and do some things throughout the day, take a break from the chaos when you can. Um, and so I approached it differently. Was I kind of annoyed that I had irritability? Yes. But I mean, I still got through the day and it wasn't like detrimental as it has been in the past.
Okay, well, Jen, wait a second. You willingly scheduled this story share during luteal, okay?
I know I'm on day 19. I'm like, what? Yeah.
That's not a testament. Wow, that's so impressive. I mean, yeah. Yeah, it's a different way of living with the symptoms. Not obviously that we want to reduce and manage the symptoms, but there's also just a whole, you're kind of coming at it in a completely different way that resources you to be able to navigate them differently. And it's so funny, Jen, because as I've been doing this over the year, there's a reason why we do everything in the program. Everything has a purpose, and it's been honed over the last 8 years. And you wouldn't believe how many times I'm reading through the symptoms, like the top symptoms, the top 5 symptoms that clients come to us for, and at the end, and I'm reading them, and they're like, "Oh, I kind of forgot about that."
Yeah.
I'm like, this is one of 5 reasons you came to me and you forgot. Because the brain just does that,
Yeah.
right? You just move into
Yeah.
now this is the new normal and it's always been like this way, and you kind of forget. That's one of the
Yeah.
reasons why we have all of this detailed data tracking and monitoring that we can really reflect because we can't quite trust the human brain. It orients to reality all the time, and when it's bad, everything's bad, and it's always been bad, and there's no hope. And when it's good, everything's always good, and it's always been good. And it's weird how the brain can do that. But before we wrap up, I'm curious. You've been on this journey for decades. What do you want someone experiencing these symptoms, who's in the thick of it, who's down there on the floor, face planted, feeling like there's no hope, there's no way out of this, there's no possible way it could change? You've gone through a transformation. You've changed the way these symptoms are impacting you. You've changed the severity of the symptoms. You are living a very different life now than you were 6 months ago. From this new place, what wisdom and insights would you want to share with someone who's still really struggling?
Well, I think first of all that I would want people to recognize that they're not alone. Like they're not making these up. That their experience is real. But in the same breath, there are people out there who can help them get ahead of what they're experiencing and helping them to learn to manage what they're experiencing and kind of live their lives with more ease. And also, I hope to inspire others to just keep asking more questions, asking practitioners and doctors and, you know, a therapist or someone who can, go through with them. For me, getting the diagnosis was like, okay, I'm not lying about, like, I'm not just making this up. Like, there's something out there that is recognized. And even if there's not, you can always talk to someone who's going through this uh, also, yeah, with the similar symptoms or the same symptoms. And if anything, like I would want to people to track their cycle. I think that is the biggest first step. If you're thinking that you're experiencing these symptoms more than a day, more than just a one-off or one time, like when you're having a bad day. I think for me, like I just told myself if I could just do this one thing a day, um, it would help motivate me to to do the rest of the work because that also proves that you're not making it up. For me, it was like, yeah, no, I experience this every month. Like, I'm not just saying I had a bad day and now I need all this help. But um, so I think my hope for others is just to inspire them to dig deeper and to look for the support that they can out there, that somebody can help them. Or maybe it's this podcast, or maybe it's one of your posts, and to know that they, whatever their experience is real, and there is help out there for them.
It's so beautiful, Jen. It's such a wise piece of advice because the brain will tell you otherwise. There's no hope. There's no one who can help. I'm the only one experiencing this. So common. We hear it all the time, right? We talk about it in our community calls together of just like, isn't that so great? We're all here and we all can support and validate the experiences that we're going through and move through them, not stay stuck. So thank you, Jen. I know it's a big ask to come and share your story. It takes a lot of bravery and vulnerability to do that, but these stories are a lifeline to so many women out there to hear from you and hear how you've changed this and how this is no longer at the center of your life, impacting every single aspect of who you are and what you do and how you show up, really is a beautiful ray of hope to those out there because, right, we're not perfect. We're not doing it perfectly. We haven't figured it all out, but yet we still have been able to change this for ourselves. And, we are special, but we're not special in the way that only Jen and I can do this, or only the other clients and I can do this, right? That have shared their stories. This is available. This hope is available to everyone. So we're so grateful to you, Jen.
I'm grateful for you, Jess, and those community calls too. I just love them, and I think that also helps with the validation of like, we're not doing this alone. And um, yeah, I think that you're doing amazing things, and I'm so glad the universe gave me you. So thank you.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for being here.
Okay.